All right. So after the Jomon period, this new period of Japanese history emerges called the Yayoi period. So about 300 BC to 300 C. And really, this is the transition from sort of Neolithic small-scale settlements of the Jomon period to more permanent settlements that emerge throughout a lot of Japan. And they say that what kind of caused this is new migrations and interactions and connections between Japan, Korea, and China. That some people, some Yayoi people were actually coming to from these areas, Korea and China, maybe pushed out from other, from political issues that were going on in these regions. There's a lot going on in China and Korea at this time. Formations of new empires were coming up, so people could have moved over here. And with them came when they migrated to Japan, they brought with them a couple things. The most important thing with they came is they brought rice. So this is the distinctive transition between Jomon period and Yayoi period is the beginning of rice cultivation in Japan. And as we know, with food, rice is essential part of Japanese cuisine, and this is where it comes. So it's a transition to agriculture and agricultural and with agriculture within Japan comes the transition to more permanent settlements. So rice comes. They also bring soy, and once you're farming, you can build bigger cities. You don't have to move around as much. So this is Jomon is sort of typified as still hunting gathering, some small settlements, but Yayoi period with the introduction of rice comes larger, more complex worlds. And they also brought with them new forms of pottery. Here you can see Yayoi pottery, which is very different than the Jomon style. So something was introduced there, these new forms of pottery. And they also brought new technologies of metal. They brought iron tools and weapons and bronze bells. Dotaku becomes very popular in this Yayoi period. So you see these whole new forms of technologies, food. It really demarcates archaeologically a very distinctive transition between Jomon and Yayoi period. They also think that these people, when they migrated over from China and Korea, mixed with the mixture of these groups, brings about the Japanese language. The Jomon language mixes with Korean, Chinese, what they were speaking there, and out of this comes the early Japanese language. Still very oral, not written yet, but it's being introduced during this period. Some of the figures of this time, again, that reinforces this idea that that Yayoi represents this new dynamic of interactions between China, Korea, and Japan, is actual accounts. This is the first accounts we have, foreign accounts of Japan, of this region. And we find them in Chinese accounts, where a Japanese envoy in 57 CE visits the Han Emperor. So the Han China was this early flourishing kingdom, one of the early sort of the unification of China. This envoy comes over, and Japan is referred to as Wa or Wo in Chinese texts. So he is acknowledged that, and they talk about, China as, this kind of, in Chinese talk about what they sort of know about Japan, which isn't very much. That it's an island. It's kind of, more farming, right? But they do give this seal to the king of Na. So and we have this. This is the actual seal that was given from China to the king of Wa, found in Kyushu. So we know there was a connection between Japan and China here. And we also have records of this Queen Himiko, who's this very kind of rather famous early queen of Japan. She's also referenced in Chinese accounts that she ruled, kind of this early reference of a female ruler of Wa or Wo, same sort of region. There is a early queen also referenced in Japanese sources we'll talk about in a little bit later here, but it isn't referenced exactly as Queen Himiko. It might be the same figure, seen as this sort of shaman queen there. And Queen Himiko has become very popular in Japanese culture. You see her a lot in manga. She shows up, or in video games as well. Sort of this Tomb Raider figure is also a Civilization 7. She's going to play a role in too. So Queen Himiko is also from this Yayoi period. And then after that, it's another phase of interactions, particularly with Korea, comes up, Kofun period, which is typified from these Kofun refers to these tombs that are found all throughout the Korean Peninsula and Japan, all around the same time. And along with these tombs, suggests, or these tombs are for rulers, suggests the formations of more coherent states, state systems, and we'll see that as well in Japanese history in a little bit. That these new state systems in both Korea and Japan emerge. Invigorating connections with Korea. And these tombs, the Kofun refers to these key-shaped tombs, these burial chambers. The chambers were up here. They found swords, mirrors, these sort of terracotta figures, haniwa, in these tombs. So kind of a material culture of the Kofun, a little bit different than the Yayoi period. The largest tomb is near Osaka. So the Kansai region becomes sort of the center of Japan here at this time. And maybe there's one tomb in Nara that maybe might be related to Queen Himiko. It's not fully conclusive yet, but there's some suggestions there. But really what Kofun period is you see this emergence of yuji, or clans, which are these family-based associations that become political and social groups. And so this is kind of related back to these larger, more organized state societies. And these are people who are able to get the resources, funds to build these tombs for themselves. One of the ones that we'll talk about here is the Yamato Yuji, or family, that emerges and becomes a Japanese imperial family. We'll talk about them a little more specifically. So the Japanese imperial family emerges in this Kofun period. And that, as we'll talk about with the Japanese imperial family, they still are in existence today. They're still the same Japanese imperial family. Some other clans, the Soga clan becomes popular or powerful in the Nara period. We'll get the Fujiwara clan becomes popular in the Heian period. And these clans later on, when we get to like sort of samurai time, each region then will be ruled by these uji, or these clans, these families that will then create their own castles and their own military, the samurai. So this is the period where these ujis, these family-based but also political social groups start to emerge. And we know a little bit about this because a little bit later in the Nara period, you get the two early histories of Japan, the Kojiki, Record of Ancient Matters, that talk about these earlier periods, and the Nihon Shoki. So around the 8th century, we have the first histories of Japan. And a lot of this are also, again, sort of influenced by China. China was writing history, so by about the 8th century, 700 CE, Japan also starts writing their own history. So we have a little bit better of these yuji, these clans, some of these early rulers, also the imperial family we'll talk about. And then here's just some other material cultures of the Kofun period. Iron, copper helmets. These are these haniwa terracotta figures as well that we found, that have been found in those in the Kofun burial tombs.